I'm Lucy Vinnis, Mayor of Eugene, and here once again to thank you all for finishing up what was probably a long, busy day for all of you with another 3 hours of conversation about housing tools and strategies. But this is such an important conversation and really appreciate your commitment of time. Today we all know it's the culmination of all the work you've done. And we have a couple of, in addition to myself, City Manager John Reese is here and Councilor Jennifer Yeh are here. So we're all trying to make sure that we hear what you have to say in the way you want to say it so that we do the best work going forward. And appreciate that what you are contributing towards is an incredibly important public process that will strengthen the City Council's conversation. So thank you once again for your commitment to the community. And I look forward to the proceedings of the evening. And I will turn it over to Carrie.
On. I have to apologize. I left Eugene last time with a cold and I haven't beat it yet. So if I start coughing into the microphone, I don't know what Beyonce does when this happens, but I don't have strategies. So I will apologize if I blow your ears out. I'll try to cover it up or move it, and apologize in advance for that. I'm Carrie. I get to be your facilitator, keeping you on track and focused and pushing you through to finalize these decisions tonight. The end of tonight might be a little hectic. It's my hope that we will have a nice closing and be able to go around the room and just kind of acknowledge one another's work. But in the event that we run out of time, I wanted to start the meeting with acknowledgement for the amount of work that has gone into this process, both for you all coming after long, busy days, for city staff that has poured their hearts and souls into things and worked really hard to make this work. I have made them do more things that they didn't think they were going to have to do, and then not let them do a bunch of things that they thought they were going to do. And they've been really good sports about it. And then Sarah and the team from Strategic Economics, the staff here at the Baker Center, everything has been a tremendous team effort. And so give ourselves a round of applause for that before we get into the hard stuff. With that, we're going to jump in. Our agenda tonight is here, and you have a copy in the packet that you received tonight. We'll spend some time all getting on the same page. Then we'll spend some time deepening our understanding. If you remember, there was the dessert option. Last time we looked through the menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but we still have dessert, which is blue options. And hopefully you brought your folder back that has those from last time. We might have a couple extra copies if you need it. You could check with somebody at the welcome table there in the back. So we'll talk about dessert and do a temperature check from that. Staff will madly tally those results so we can add those to the sorted options that you see up on the board. Okay? We're going to do some data filling in based on places where people had a lot of uncertainty, where it seemed like there was some interest, but there was still a lot of uncertainty about some options. We have a little bit more information to share with you. And then we'll do our final deliberation and voting. That's going to be the biggest chunk. I'm hoping like an hour and a half, and we're going to work through those options one by one, starting with the ones that based on your straw poll were the most popular and the most well supported, and working our way down. Okay? If we have extra time, we'll try to scoop up some of the ones that scored lower, but that may still have some merit. But I'm pretty sure your city could spend the next decade, maybe 3 decades, implementing just the top half of options, right? So if we don't get to some of those bottom ones, it'll be okay. We'll spend some time at the end crafting our message out, kind of saying, what do we want to share with people about this? And part of that is me collecting information that I'll include in the final report that I submit to council as your neutral facilitator. And then we'll close, we'll do our next steps and evaluation. All right, here's what's happened since last time. Oh, before I get into since last time, we've gotten a lot of feedback about just how fast this all has felt, and we agree. The holiday didn't help. You should have seen everybody working to try to get everything done. But I wanted to remind people too, we talked about this diamond of decision making and how we started with this question of how can we improve affordability, availability, and diversity of housing in Eugene. And you've kind of been working through the grown zone. We're going to spend some more time there today. But as we're moving towards our closure, we're narrowing, we're focusing, we're getting towards that clear list, right? This makes some people very angsty because they say, wait, we need more information, we need more of this, we need more of that. That's true. That's part of what makes the grown zone hard. Rest assured, however, your end spot is an expression of your community values that says, based on the best information we have, these are ideas we can support and that we think City Council should consider more. Then, that becomes a new option that your lucky city councilors and city leadership says, they think we should do all these things. What are we going to do with that, right? They'll have their own process then to say, well, we need more information about this, or this seems like a slam dunk, or whatever else, right? And they'll have to do their own process of saying, what can we do? What's most important? They'll probably have their own groan zone before they come to whatever conclusions. For some of you, that's as reassuring, right? That stuff is going to undergo lengthy more processes of city leadership figuring it out. For some of you, that will drive you crazy, right? Because these are good ideas, you've put them forward, City Council should go with it, right? And the delays and more study and whatever else will be frustrating for you, right? Both of those things are true, right? I'm really hopeful that they will act on some of your really brilliant ideas, especially where you have a ton of agreement. And then I'm really hopeful that they'll be very thoughtful and deliberative, right? I don't think they'll be real willy-nilly of just implementing things without having more data for it, all right? All right, so rest assured, the future of the Western world does not ride on your shoulders right now, but it is important work, and City Council will be excited to see it. These are the options that you guys put forward last time. Let's do a little tour of what's in your packet so you can see what has happened since then, and then we will jump into our small group deliberation. If you weren't here last time, you just got this packet. If you were here last time, you just got this packet today. If you were not here, this was tucked inside your folder. You see the agendas on top? After that is your participant evaluation data. I was thrilled to see you were so happy with the small group volunteers. They did a great job. Then you have a summary of community feedback that we received via email. It is lengthy. We did not print it all out for you, but it's available online. Hopefully you had a chance to check that out yesterday. We're definitely navigating the balance of keeping comment periods open for long enough for people to respond, but closing them early enough to be able to get the information to you so you could see it. So there's a summary of it there. There was one email that didn't get included. It's listed at the end. It was mostly concerns with the presentation from Strategic Economics and limitations of data. So that one didn't get included yesterday, but it's been added today, and we just didn't realize that was intended to go to the whole group. I'm not sure how it got dropped, but it was not intentional. Then the next page is the online survey. We had 25 folks, I think. Yeah, 25 folks respond. So the most feedback from the community ever on this one. You can see how they broke down demographically. You can see overall what they thought their top interests were. And then they gave feedback on the options. I know it's hard to tell with the not being color printing, but the bottom is the things that they agreed with, and then the top numbers are the things that they disagreed with. So for example, number 1 there, I think 5 people said yes, 6 people said no in the community feedback. Okay. So you can decide how that may impact you. It's different demographics of who responded in this group than who's in the room, and also, of the broader Eugene demographics and how those mix up. So you can decide how that community feedback impacts your preferences and voting. There's some comments there on the options. And then you start into your colored paper. These are the same options in the same order that you saw before, except we filled in some information where it seemed like it might be helpful. You see some of them say no new information based on straw poll. That was either because an idea was so popular or so unpopular that we didn't think you needed more information, okay? Those go by color. You can see the 3. The new options that were suggested last time have been inserted into that. You can see those say new. So if you were feeling mixed, we especially paid attention where there was a big chunk of people that voted yellow, that they just weren't sure. So if you're feeling mixed about any of them, you can kind of refer back and see if any of that new information affects you. All right, next in your packets, to remind you how you voted in the straw poll, if we got this from you, we returned it to you so you could see, where did I vote yellow, right? Or what were the ideas that I really supported? Some of you may not have it. I think there's 2 of you that I didn't get one from. I apologize if that was me misplacing it, but dig through your pile of papers and you might find that it's in there. So there's that reminder. There is then a new page for strategy 4. You're going to submit that today at the end of this little small group talk. And we're going to quickly tally those up and sort out that last set of options based on most and least popular. And then at the very end is where you will weigh in with your final comments. We're going to vote using cards tonight. You're going to hold up colored cards to indicate your preferences, but you can also jot down comments in your arguments for or against that can get included in the final report on that paper. So this isn't a ballot in the same sense, but you can keep track of how you're voting and certainly add your comments to that last page. Okay. Any questions about what's in your packet? Whew. It's a big tour. All right, so then, without further ado, I'm going to have you jump in to consider the options that were kind of in the other category, the dessert options. They are in your packet from last time. They are blue, if you want to see that list. We don't have small group facilitators this time. I think it's the end of the term at U of O, and it's a little bit harder for me to recruit graduate students. But you all did such a good job last time that we're going to have you manage your own small group. So before you launch into the deliberation, though, you're going to check in with your small group table. I want you to remind them who you are, where you're from, and then if there's something that stood out to you from last time that was positive about your small group. It could be that you want to say, you know, I started thinking about things differently because of ideas that I heard, and that was useful for me. Or you could say, wow, I really appreciated that we did a good job listening, or that we balanced participation, or that y'all are just so darn smart and I got to hang out with you. Whatever it is. You can share something that you appreciated about it from last time, and folks can try to hold that goodness for the next round when you deliberate. All right? So when I say go, start where you like, but have somebody start you off, say your name, where you're from, something you liked about last time. Once you've gone all the way around, you guys can start evaluating those options in that blue packet, and at the end of it, we'll have you vote on those. But we want you to discuss them, again, thinking about what do you like about it, what are some of the drawbacks, etc. Any questions about what we need to do? Go ahead. Oh, that's a great question. You are going to have until 6. Oh, we are so good, y'all. We're like super ahead of schedule. You are going to have until 6:10. So it gives you about 25 minutes. Is that right? Yeah, 6:10. And when you're ready, go ahead and grab that sheet. It says Strategy 4 on the top. Start casting your votes. Remember, the thumbs up means it's an idea you can support. It fits our criteria. It meets interests that you all have identified. Thumbs sideways means you feel kind of so-so. You might need some more information. And thumbs down means it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't meet your interests. It's not an idea you can support. When you finish your votes or your list, there's a city staff person who's going to come to your table. It's somebody that might have taken notes for your table before. They are going to tally the notes or the votes for your table and combine them so we can add them to our large sorted list. So you'll see somebody lurking over your shoulder. They might be sitting at your table now. They're going to collect and tally those for you. and turn them all in. Jason and Chelsea, I think, are going to do our final votes, or our final sorting on those. Please, after you've submitted your ballot, pick up an ice cream. You get 10 minutes at 6:25. Start bringing our attention back into the room. The real fun is about to begin. So the options that you see in front have been sorted based on your straw poll from the most popular, the ones that had the most agreement. The first one had 96% agreement. There was just one person who was like, I'm not sure. So it was pretty tremendous. All the way down to the end here, and I know you can't see them. The last one up here is number 8, Activate the Opportunity Citing Program. Everything else below that had less than 50% approval. Okay, we might be able to get to some of these and see if we can resurrect some of them from the bottom, okay, if we have time. But I haven't put them up because we're getting pretty full and we don't have our blue dessert options in here yet. Okay, so the idea here is that we're going to spend the most time discussing and voting on the ones that have the most potential to go forward and be successful with council. So we'll start with the ones that are most popular there. So number 5 is the first one. I don't think you have any more information on this one because it was so popular. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to take it off the big board to keep us all on the same page. I say, here is number 5. This is what's under discussion now. You all have green cards. You can remind yourselves what this is about. But I'm hoping, since this one was so popular, it's going to be an easy one to vote on. I'm sorry, this is strategy 1. It was orange. Sorry, these ones, remember, we had the funky copying, and I didn't want to confuse people if you remembered it being gray before. So this is, it's an orange option, strategy 1, option 5. Enable more multifamily development along key corridors. So you can look back at your past ballot. You can look at the information in the salmon colors. It's not orange. That would be way too beaverish of us. This is the salmon packet. And you can remind yourself what that one is. So this is just number 5. If there are sub-options under things, you will vote on the sub-options separately. Okay? You can be in support of the overall option as well as sub-options. Okay? But you are voting on them singularly. All right? Here's a couple other things before we vote. You're like ready to go with your cards. I love it. I love it. One caveat. 2 caveats. A couple of other instructions before we get into it. Many of you have been here all 4 meetings. Many of you have been to 3 of the 4 meetings. A couple of you, this is only your 2nd meeting. Life happens and you haven't been able to be here much. I'm going to ask you to self-select because I have no idea how you were engaging with the material when you were not here, if that's the case and that you missed 2 of the other meetings. If you've been following up on things, watching the videos that have been so graciously recorded and posted, thank you, Todd, reading the materials that are coming out, talking to other people about stuff, I hope you'll feel confident to vote and raise your card. If you missed half the meetings and you haven't been engaged, and I don't think, we had a couple folks who came to the first meeting, we haven't seen them since, and I don't see them in the room today, we would ask you to not raise your cards. Right, because you've kind of missed some of the spirit of the group. And we'll just ask you to submit your feedback on paper, but we'll ask you to not raise your cards today. So you can decide. I think that some of you that had to miss, you've totally stayed up on things, and I don't want to take away your voice in this, but if you feel like, I don't actually know what's going on here, don't vote, right? The group is wise, and they'll take care of it for you. All right, so that's a caveat on voting. What else was I going to say? Oh, when you vote, if you vote green, you're saying, yes, I support this idea. It may not be perfect. It may not be my favorite option, but it meets our interests. It meets our criteria. I think it's at least worth City Council looking at and pursuing. If you vote green here, don't go into the community later and be like, I know that working group, that was a terrible idea, wasn't it? Right? I want you to stand on that. There's some responsibility when you say yes. So don't just yes willy-nilly because it feels good, right? Say yes because it's an idea that even if it's not perfect, even if it's not your favorite, that you can stand by and say, yeah, that makes sense. I understand that there might be negative impacts. I understand that other people may not like it, but to me, the trade-offs are worth it. That the potential that idea has to do good is worth it, even with and in spite of the trade-offs and the negative impacts it might have. Okay? Yeah.
So if we feel like we need more information, should we pass on it?
So if you just can't support it, if you still look at it and are like, I just don't feel confident enough to say, yeah.
Well, because we don't know it well enough.
Yeah, the only danger is if too many of you are like, I just still want information, if that takes enough green away, it may not make the cut for city council to look at it, right? So you have to decide for yourself. If you feel like, I just still feel really mixed, I don't have enough information that I can stand on this idea and support it, vote yellow, please, or red, or whatever you think is most appropriate. Yeah, and that's fine. Just be aware that if enough of you feel lukewarm about an idea that if you had to pick one way or another you think would be one or the other, right, then take a stand on either yes or no. So.
I was asking if we should vote if we didn't have enough information.
Yeah, no, I don't think abstaining helps you at this point. We want, and I would say at this point, remember your vote is an expression of, does this align with my values, right? Does this align? We know this is a wicked problem. We know there's trade-offs. We know that some of these things are just going to be hard, right? So you're saying, based on what I know, yeah, this aligns with my values and what's important in our priorities, do it, right? So that's kind of the hope. All right, any other questions? Yeah.
I was just curious. I know looking at 5 here again, I fully agree with it, but I don't see anything in there that talks about affordable housing.
So the question of how it would impact affordability, so this is where, remember, we've got a 3-pronged approach. We want affordability, availability, and diversity of housing. It could be that there's overlap in some of those, right? More availability might make for more affordability, more diverse types might make more affordable types. If there's a different caveat in there of allow it if it's going to be deed restricted, capital A, subsidized affordable housing, something like that, that might be a different option, right? So at this point, the way it's written now and what you're going to be voting on is just as it is. It could be any housing type. Okay, I know this is where like that last minute, like, oh, well, I would like it if it was this, or I would like it like that. We can try to wheel and deal a little bit and like make a 5C that might be something real specific like that. But we're kind of running out of time for new things. We hope we've thought of all these ideas by now, and new ideas come up. So we can be a little bit flexible and say, okay, what would it look like if it was 5C like this, and we can take another poll. It's just hard for people to jump and make a decision so quickly on something like that. So these are as written here, as explained here. Remember, we are not writing the code ourselves. This is not statutory language. We're hoping we have enough agreement of the spirit of an idea that we can vote. Good? Whew. A lot of introduction. And when you leave, I voted stickers for y'all, but if I did, I would give them to you. Make it rain, those vote stickers. All right, option number 5. This is what's on the table. Enable more multifamily development along key corridors. How do you, I forgot. I don't want you to be swayed by your neighbors and copying and going, oh, well, if he likes it, I don't, or she likes it, I like it too, right? So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and then you raise your cards, and Anne and Scott are counting like mad, and we're gonna record them up here. Their math is so much better than mine. You'll notice, one more thing. You'll notice your red cards have your letter code thing on them. We're gonna write those down in case we need to follow up with you of reasons not to support an idea. So that gets included in the thing. So when you hold up that card, make sure we can see that letter so we know who to follow up with to get more of those comments. All right, number 5. Multifamily, 1, 2, 3. Keep them up. Keep them up. Scott's still counting to double check. Scott, how many did you get? 26? 28. 28. Hold them up again. This is our total number. Can I just tell y'all, when I started this process, I said, I think we're gonna get something with unanimous agreement. Makes me so giddy that we did. That sends a strong message to your council. 28. Hey! Hey, give yourselves a round of applause. Your first vote is done and you are now unanimous agreement. Woo! Nobody's excited. Y'all should have eaten more ice cream. All right. That is a good start one. Doesn't that feel good? All right. Next up for consideration. By the way, now that we know there's 28 of you, we're going to count the yellows and the reds and we're going to assume the rest are green. Okay, so if you don't want it, please hold up your green. But if you don't want green, make sure you hold up something, because otherwise we're going to lump you in, okay? So they're not counting everyone every time. All right, now under discussion. Oh, why do you like that idea, by the way? Why is number 5 of having more multifamily development on key corridors? Why is this a good idea?
As an affordable housing advocate, supply helps low-income tenants.
Perfect. So increasing supply, helping low-income tenants. Anything else?
Putting in those transportation corridors can help a lot with getting more people that are in the corridor having access to
Excellent.
transit and reducing environmental impact.
Good, good. Anything else that this particularly helps? Yeah.
It aligns with the Envision Eugene strategies.
Brilliant. Excellent. So there's lots of other reasons that you might support this. If you would like to write those down on your packet where it has the yes, no, maybe, it's like kind of your, I guess it's cream colored, it was at the back of your things. Find number 5 and write down any other reasons for supporting that idea. All right, under discussion now, number 9, complete a land use code audit of regulatory barriers to housing. This has a pink heart by it, which means that it's already happening. So that's cool. But your support on this would show that the community says, yeah, there might be some regulatory barriers in the way, and we want to know more about what those things are, which would then spark another process of what you can do about them. All right, so consider your thoughts on that. Option number 9, it is strategy 1, I think. Yep. And get your cards ready. 1, 2, 3. I see 3 yellow, which Carolyn's got 2. Oh, by the way, Ted couldn't come. He made Carolyn his proxy. We worked it out. She's holding up double hands. Ron. There we go. So we should have 3 maybes and 25 yeses then? Does that seem, we're just going to do the subtraction math. All right, good. Reasons that folks feel positive about this. Why it's a good idea? Let's get a couple ideas in support. Okay, we're already doing it. That's nice. Okay, code has a lot of messed up stuff, and weeding some of those things out might help. Good. Those of you who felt lukewarm about it, any reasons what interest it's not meeting? Okay, nothing to add. Ron, you want to add an interest it's not meeting? Just feel lukewarm about it? Okay, all right, sounds good. Number 9 is done. All right, next one is number 50. This was a new option that came up at your last meeting. You see it's got the initial post-it here. I recopied it and I replicated the dots so it was a little more consistent. Number 50 is create or add pre-approved ADU plans. This is strategy orange, so strategy 1, salmon, sorry. So it's in your new information packet towards the bottom of the 3rd page.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to be filling this out at the same time?
You can be for other comments. Yeah.
So,
Will you repeat his question?
Yeah. Sorry, Dan asked if you should be filling out your comments at the same time. So as we go through, you can do it in whatever order you like, but if you have additional commentary about number 9 that we just voted on, you can certainly fill that in. We are going to collect those at the end. Yeah, thank you, Dan. All right, so this is pre-approved ADU plans, gaining some efficiencies by having some things in the works where designs or certain specs are already approved. Those ADUs would still be subject to whatever regulations are in place, but those pre-approved plans could help create some efficiencies in construction. ADUs are also sometimes called SDU, secondary dwelling units. I think ADU is the more common national language on them. All right. Grab your cards. Voting on number 50, add pre-approved ADU plans. 1, 2, 3. All right. So I see 1, 2. I see 2 yellow, no red. Okay. We're going to just do the negative math instead of making them count every single green. If there's 2 yellow, there's going to be 26. Look at that math. 26 green. All right. Those of you who support the idea, all 26 of you, I'd love to hear a new voice. Why is it a smart idea? How does it meet your interests?
We would have a really clear code path if you could create pre-approved plans.
Okay. It would help with the code path, so making that easier to navigate for people.
It's more cost effective than custom design.
Okay. Good. So there's cost effectiveness with saving on custom design. Good. I saw 2 yellows. Anything you want to add? No? Okay. Anything to add? Carolyn and Ted split their votes. I'm glad they communicated on this one. He told me Carolyn knows what I want. I'm glad.
Wrote it down.
All right, so done with number 50. Let's move on now to 16. By the way, when they finish tallying and sorting the blue options for strategy 4, they will come and fill them in, and we'll go back if there were some other super popular items. We'll add them up here. All right, so number 16. This is in the yellow packet. Streamline, speed up the permitting process. Prioritize staff dedicated to the building and land use permitting process for certain housing types. So right now things come in first come, first serve. This would prioritize more staff to certain housing types to support their speedier, and time is money, I would imagine, less costly development. All right, let's grab our cards. Voting on number 16, streamlining, speeding things up for certain housing types. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's a whole lot of green on that one too. Okay, good. I see 2 yellow. All right, so I'm going to say 2 yellow, 26 green. Good, go ahead and put them down. Folks that support it, love to hear a new voice. Why is this a smart thing to help affordability, availability, or diversity? Go ahead. Okay, so that turnaround time is costly, discouraging to developers. If we can turn them around faster, that'll help. Good. Anything else? Reasons you support it? 26 of you that thought it was a good idea. That's the big one. Okay, just speed it up, make it faster. Okay, good. Thinking if it's faster, you can increase supply, right? And availability. Good. Folks that felt lukewarm, any reasons why?
I just felt that first come, first serve is more fair and equitable flow to all concerned.
Okay. Okay, good. Fair perspective. If you're prioritizing certain things or other things getting stuck even further behind. Okay, thank you for voicing that. Appreciate it. All right. Anything else you want to add? John, I think you had another yellow. Anything you want to add?
Unless you put more resources into it,
Yes. This would require, I mean, there may be some staff efficiencies, but it probably needs more resources to do. Good, thanks for calling that out. All right, next along, number 18, complete a land use code audit of process barriers. So this is similar to number 9, I believe, that was regulatory barriers, but this one is focused on process barriers. This is another one that's already happening. This is another one that Sarah identified as useful as part of a comprehensive approach. I don't think this is in your yellow packet. I don't think there's any new information based on its previous popularity. Oh, no. just echoes that it's similar. All right, cards. 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 3 red. Thanks, John. Good. So 3 red, 25. Yes. Those of you that support it, tell us why. This is the first one we've had opposition for. So let's tell the community why do you like it? Why is this a smart idea? Go ahead, Carmel. Okay, good. So having a really in-depth, deep dive of understanding what the problems are can help surface those things. Anything else? Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. This is why we do it that way in front of everybody, because then if we do mess up, we can fix it. Good. Those of you that had read, tell me about which interest this isn't meeting.
This is in conflict with Envision Eugene. It's contrary to Oregon revised statutes, and it would interfere with due process rights.
So it strikes you the land use, doing a land use code audit of process strikes you as being in opposition to those things.
You're asking a question?
Yeah, so you're saying these would be, doing this would be in opposition to the tenets of Envision Eugene.
And it's in conflict with Oregon revised statutes, and it would conflict with due process laws.
Okay, so there seems to be a legal conflict there that would need to be examined. Okay, Carolyn, anything else to add? Okay, all right, let's keep going then. Number 1. This is a salmon-colored one. Revise the land use code to encourage accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in all single-family homes. Zones, homes. You put the ADU in the home. Number 1, this is a salmon option. It was relatively popular in your straw poll again. Whoop. No new information about it. Grab your green cards. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 2 yellow, 2 red, 3 red? I think just 2. 3 yellow? Oh, you had, I'm sorry, thank you. Perfect. This is why we have multiple people doing the math. All right, those 23 of you that said yes to this option, tell me why this is a good idea. How does it help?
Can you reds, put your reds back up?
Can we double check the reds?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, those of you who said this is a good idea, why do we think it's a good idea? Yeah.
It meets all 3 of the objectives that were mentioned.
Okay.
Affordability, supply, and our.
Okay. All right, so from where you said it would help with all those things?
It's required by state law.
It's required by state law. Has that decision come out, by the way? I thought so too. I was waiting with bated breath. All right, so state law has already said this has to happen, and council made a certain decision that's in the courts still apparently, but it's more compliant with state law. From if you were the judge, that would be the decision. Another reason to support it. Okay, so based on what you heard in the market analysis of, in the previous presentation, that could have a significant impact. Okay, any other reasons to support? You can jot down any ideas that you didn't get to share out loud on your paper, and we'll collect those. All right, those of you that felt kind of lukewarm about it or opposed to it, let's hear about what those reasons are. And by the way, this is what we're going to expect. We're going to have more and more opposition as we go through these things, and it's important that we call out these negative impacts and the tensions that it creates. So those of you who felt so-so or read about this, tell us why.
I'm not sure that it's just, it will be to the benefit of the person who builds it. It's not, they're not going to necessarily rent it for a reasonable price, and I think it'll cost quite a bit to build it.
Okay.
So I think there's, a chance that it's not going to be affordable.
Okay.
That it's just going to be a rental that they can charge as high as prices they can.
Okay, good. So it may not address the issue of affordability in a significant way. Could have a negative impact. Something else. I'm going to pass the mic around for these. Sorry, I had forgotten that. It should be on now.
My issue is more about supply. Everybody's talking about ADUs. Springfield changed their code and no one's building them. So I don't think it's a supply solution.
Okay, so there might be other economics with it that make that unviable. Oh, Lindsay got a microphone right there.
So there's nuance to this. This isn't just a single issue thing. I mean, there's a lot of depth that needs to be explored, pros and cons.
So tell me your top con that makes you vote no.
The top con?
Uh-huh.
It may, if you just did this blanket thing that's written here, it might encourage the destruction of other things that we want to preserve.
That you value, okay.
Yeah.
So that there might be ways that it would negatively impact the quality of life here. Okay, good. Any other things we need to know in opposition for this one? All right, let's move on then. Hey, new ones that were more popular. So number 39, thank you for your votes on number 1. Number 39, this is from your blue options that you just discussed. Develop a housing action plan. You all are a bunch of policy dorks. I looked at that and I was like, who aside from city staff says, you know what we need? We need to make a comprehensive plan and we're all gonna work together, we're gonna make a plan. You all do, you all voted that. This is popular stuff. I love it. I love it. All right, so in the straw poll, you said 24 yes, 2 maybe, 1 no. I'm gonna have you vote as your official, but you've just discussed it, you've just previously voted unless something dramatic has changed in your world. And we have 27 votes there somehow. That's okay. The final vote is happening now. Somebody might have left that one blank. 39. It takes a village. All right, so under discussion now, number 39, blue, create a comprehensive housing action plan. 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 2 yellow. I'm sorry, 3 yellow, thank you. Yep. So 3 yellow, 20, that makes 24. The night goes on, my math gets worse. Did you change? Oh, you can't do that to me, Ed. 4, 20, are you being serious?
No.
Yeah, all right, 4 and 24. 4 and 24. All right, folks that like this, why is this a good idea? You are chomping at the bit. Please, Alyssa.
It would create a comprehensive plan to address all the different pillars that we're trying to address, and like you said, it's a wicked problem, and it would help create actionable milestones to obtain.
Okay, good. We've heard some of the asterisk things. This works if it's part of a comprehensive plan, so you're all saying put it together, make a comprehensive plan for it. Good, have it actionable. Eliza, you look like you're chomping at the bit too, no? No, you don't have to, it's all right. Any other reasons? Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
For me, I would change the wording to a housing production plan because we make these numbers, but there's no really connection between resources and how many units that equates to.
Okay, all right, so we're not going to change the option right now. You voted on it with action plan, but we can note Jacob's suggestion there that it's got to be about production and what the actual output is going to be. Good, excellent, thank you. All right, 29 can scoot. Hey, Lindsay, would you let somebody else be the microphone runner and start typing people's pro-con? We had really specific jobs before we started today, and they've all gone out the window. That was 39. I'm sorry, 39.
And if everyone can really try, I know I'm not using the microphone right now. If everyone can really try to use the microphone, it helps so that when we have the video, people can actually hear what you're saying. And we just never know if there are people in the room who might need extra volume.
Perfect. All right, next up, and Chelsea, is there anything else that fell with above 50% that we need to add up here? So just run behind me and stick them up roughly where they go. You guys can keep doing that. So 341, develop a homeless shelter. So this is one that is, I think your packet says not specifically, well, I guess it is related to availability of housing in a temporary sense. It's also something that is happening? No? There's a study. There's a study. I get it. Okay. I don't live here. I don't know these things. I hear stuff and think maybe. All right. So develop a homeless shelter. 24 of you said yes. 3 said maybe. 0 said no previously. Let's take a final vote on that. 1, 2, 3. All right. I see the votes have not changed from what I can tell. 3 yellow, 4 yellow. 4 yellow. Thank you. When I say 3, y'all need to get yourselves organized, okay? No, I'm just teasing. Okay. So 4 maybes, 24 then yeses. Why is this a good idea? How does this help our situation? Go ahead. Oh, no, I pointed at you with the microphone. How about I hand it to you?
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that this is part of the same problem we're talking about. It's not a separate issue. Housing affordability is a spectrum that runs all the way from people who can't afford any housing at all up to more of the supply side solutions we're mostly discussing here.
Okay.
And it's just absolutely critical to get people under roofs.
Okay, good. So when we say all income levels, all income levels.
All.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I saw a lot of nodding on that. Other than, snaps and agreement. Any other nuance to that for why this is a good idea? Yeah, thanks.
Currently, there's about maybe shelter enough for 50 folks. I mean, it's very, very low. So what I notice is that we need a place where people can go to get back on their feet to get affordable housing, because there's many barriers before getting affordable housing. So that's what a shelter would do.
Okay, so it's a stepping stone along the way, transitional, helping give people that leg up so they can then take advantage of hopefully this abundance of other options for them. Good. Folks that were lukewarm about this, we didn't have any red, but folks that felt lukewarm, any reasons for that? Oh, thank you. Again, I'm gesturing with the microphone. Thank you, Chelsea.
I'm not opposed to more shelters, but it doesn't do anything for the housing supply or affordability.
Okay, thank you. So it's an important solution and may not be as impactful for the specific goals of the group. Good. Anything else? All right, let's move on. So it's 40. Oh, you're so good. 3B, enable by right housing options along key corridors. So kind of loosening up some of those regulations along key corridors. So rather than having to do special use, what do you call it? What do they have to do now if they want to? Okay, rather than having to apply for a zone change and all this other lengthy process, if it's on a key corridor, they would have more by right housing options. So this is a flavor of option 3. Okay, but it's kind of a middle path that says, let's loosen those regulations in specific areas. Ready? I don't want to jump the gun and go too fast or y'all change in the middle. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that's a whole lot of green again. All right, good. 1, 2 yellow. Darn, y'all. There's a whole lot of agreement in this room so far. I want to get into the meat of things later. All right, 2 folks that feel a little lukewarm, but a whole lot of support. Why is this a good idea? I would love to hand this microphone to somebody to give an idea why this is smart. Yeah, please.
For me, it was the note that we were talking about making that an option on lands currently zoned for single family. I wouldn't have been supportive if it was sort of moving in the other direction, because I think we're trying to increase the availability, and that would be if there was a market and someone wanting to build that housing on that corridor, it would be an increase of availability.
Good. So a way to increase that and also encouraging then the transit solutions with that. Good. Tiffany, did you have something else you wanted to add? Sorry.
I was just going to add that it seems less controversial. I mean, it seems like most of the community agrees on
It's a more palatable solution than some of the other ones
Yeah.
could be. Okay, good. Anybody that felt lukewarm about it, or reasons for caution on this? I don't remember now who our folks were. We'll start here.
Well, I think that there are a lot of places in the single-family zones that middle housing options like cottages and duplexes would be a really good strategy. And so, I mean, I like these options along the corridors, but I also think there's density infill places that we could be putting
So
in
there's
as
other
well.
places you would like it as well. Good. All right, any others that covered it? Yeah, all right, good. Let's keep going then. Looks like next up is 43, use data to improve decisions and understand their impacts. This is one, I got it. This is one that is happening already. I think this is one that's marked is happening, could be improved. This is in the blue section. Yeah, thank you. Use data to improve decisions and understand impacts. 43. I told Jason that he could stop writing the actual results on there because it took all the surprise out of it. Grab your cards. 1. Number 43. 2. 3. It's a pro data community, it seems. All right, I see a whole lot of green. Keep them up. And 1 yellow. Near unanimous. Gosh. So 27 and 1. Really quick, reasons why you like it. I'm just going to take one. Why wouldn't we? I will put that in the final report. Duh. No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. Any reservations? No. Nothing to specifically articulate. All right, then number 42 is what's next. Allow for more types of temporary housing. This is again thinking about the whole housing spectrum. Thinking about all income levels. Allow for more types of temporary housing. All right, get your cards ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay. See, hold them on up nice and high. I know your arms are getting tired. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I see 3. I see 3 yellow. No red? Okay. So 24 and 3. Reasons we like this, just one? 40. This is number 42. I'm sorry. As the night goes on, it's going to get worse, John, so keep me on my toes, please. All right. Number 42, a reason we support it. Just give me one good idea.
I think Opportunity Village is a great example of temporary housing that's been really successful.
Okay, good.
We know that it works.
Do more of that. It works. Good. Anybody that had reservations about it, a reason we should be cautious? All right.
That's the definition of temporary housing. I'll change mine to green.
All right, if that's what the definition of temporary housing is, we would like it. So a high quality of temporary housing, and we can support it. All right, let's keep going then. Number 20. Oh, y'all, I've been waiting for this one. You all want a unicorn. So in your straw poll, number 20 was very popular. Identify new revenue sources for affordable housing. Everybody said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then we spelled out the different ways that that could work and where you might get money to do these things. And you all said, I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. No, that's not a good idea. And the options below 20 were far less popular. There is no money tree, okay? Many of these options you've come up with already will cost money. Many more that are still to come will cost money. It's true. We can agree to this in concept, but if we can't pick one of those or a suite of those sub-options, none of the rest of it's going to get off the ground, right? So this might feel like a bitter pill a little bit. It might feel really good to be like, yes, number 20. But if you don't set something to council that says, and of these unpopular options, this is maybe the least bad one, or maybe if we did this combination of things, we could be okay with it. A bunch of these other things aren't going to get off the ground. Reality check. Comment? Microphone. You are so good.
So we're not making decisions on any combinations.
We could. At this point, it could get real messy. You ready? So we're going to get some more information from Sarah, our favorite economist, housing economist. She delved a little more deeply into this one, and also at the same time looked at SDCs, which is option number 12. These are related in that they both would impact the cost of construction, both in lowering or raising it, right? And whether or not things would be feasible to build then, whether things would pencil out from a developer perspective. So we're gonna kind of take a quick pause here. I would invite you to hold on to your hats because this is big stuff. And as you listen, be thinking about what does this mean for what I would be willing to support. We're talking about option 20 and the sub-options. We're going to put them all together to see if there's any of those that we can support. But there's information you'll see for number 12 that's kind of rolled into this. Microphone. And I think there's a tricky way to shut off some lights. Up here, let's get the projector first.
Oops. Okay, so I'm going to jump into some preliminary results from the financial feasibility analysis that we conducted. So as Carrie said, in order to give you a little bit more information about the potential impacts of a couple of the revenue sources, we conducted a financial feasibility analysis for several prototypes, and I'm going to show you that tonight. I just want to note that these are really preliminary results. We were working on it over the Thanksgiving week, so they could change as more information comes in. This is what we know today. We based the costs and revenues on citywide average data, the developer interviews we conducted, and industry standards and available data, industry data. And a couple other caveats I want to note. The feasibility of any specific project depends on all of the specific variables of that project. So the results of this analysis, I'm not saying every project is going to go this way. So with all that, one more caveat. So there are a lot of different ways to look at financial feasibility of development projects, and so we chose a way that is, it's an industry standard, but again, different people do it different ways. We used a return on cost metric for for-sale prototypes and a yield on cost metric for the rental prototypes, and that may sound like a lot of jargon to some of you, but for those of you who are familiar with those terms, I wanted to let you know that detail. Let's see, we'll get into some results. So we looked at 5 prototypes: single-family detached, single-family attached, multi-family or apartments, cottage cluster, and ADU. And we collected development costs for all of those prototypes using published data, developer interviews, available information. And what this slide shows is the range of costs for each prototype. So the proportion of total costs accounted for by each cost category. And one thing that probably pops right out is that the proportion of land costs varies by the type of housing that we're talking about. And for single family housing types, land is a larger proportion of total costs than it is for multifamily. And I will note that for the ADU prototype, we assume there is 0 land costs because it's on land in someone's backyard. So that land as a cost really varies. But what is really pretty uniform across all the prototypes is that building and on-site improvements is the largest cost, far and away. And so that's the most significant cost. Most of the tools we're talking about today are not going to impact building and on-site improvements, but a few of them are, and we've actually already talked about this a little bit as far as the reducing regulatory barriers. So things like adjusting design standards could reduce costs, but many of the tools that we're talking about won't actually have an impact on that. So then another thing to note on costs is that for the single family prototypes, SDCs are a smaller sliver than for the multifamily and other prototypes. So for the single family and the single family attached or townhome, SDCs, which is that orange line at the top, accounts for about 2% of total development costs. But for the multifamily and other missing middle prototypes, they account for about 4%. So this would indicate that changes to SDCs could has the potential to have a greater impact on those types of housing units than on single family or townhome projects. And I should have said at the very beginning, I know that this is very technical, so if people do have questions as I'm going along, I'm happy to answer them, and I'm going to go through a lot of technical information kind of quickly here in the interest of time, but please raise your hand if it's not clear.
Well, I do understand that STCs are going to be more for multifamily, more sinks, more toilets, more cars. But what I'm having trouble with is I've seen projects where STCs and permit fees are close to 20% of the project cost. And I'm not seeing that on this at all.
Do you have pro formas that you could provide to me that show that?
Absolutely. We do. In fact,
Yeah.
We're doing one right now in Springfield, and our SDCs and permit fees on a 24-unit apartment building are $460,000. $460,000. Total project cost is $3 million.
Okay. Well, I would be happy to take that information. We used the city calculated or provided us SDCs on existing projects. So
SDCs though also include the utility company SDCs.
yes, they include EWIP. So I would say that I have conducted other financial feasibility analyses like this in a wide range of places, and I've never seen SDCs that account for 20% of development costs.
I would say closer to 15% is more accurate. So.
Okay. Well, I would love to see that information. You can send it to staff, or I can give you my card. Are there any other questions? Or
I have a question. What's in your soft costs and other costs?
soft costs include design costs. It includes, I wrote soft costs and other, it includes financing in this graph because financing was another very tiny sliver. It includes developer overhead and fee. So.
Again, I'm going to really question those. Most contractors work on margins, especially commercial projects, of about 4 to 6%. Their general conditions can be, a little bit greater than that. But that seems really, to me, it's almost like the permits and the soft costs and the SDCs are backwards. So I don't know. It's just, I'm not sure where the data came from, but we've been doing this for 35 years, and I've never seen numbers like that.
Okay. I've never seen SDCs, again, of 20% or 15%, so I'd be really interested to see your data.
SDCs and building permit fees actually average about 15%. So
The building permit fees are in there as well.
is that the other fees?
Yes.
I'm wondering if the difference is because you're including land and maybe we didn't in the 20% of the cost, but I thought land was included.
Okay. Yeah. please send the information. So that is the cost side. And then I'm not going to be able to, because of time, I'm not going to be able to show you all of the inputs, but I do want to show you some of these preliminary results. And just to reiterate, these results may change as more information comes in. So this is the financial feasibility threshold for single family. This is a for sale product, and we tested 3 scenarios, and I'm going to walk you through the 3 scenarios. The one on the far left is the status quo, so that is today's SDCs. The bar in the middle is option 12, which is one of your options, which I believe was just said reduce SDCs. We just split them in half. We just cut them in half for the purposes of this analysis. And then the bar on the far right is option 20B, which is the imposition of the CET, or the construction excise tax, at 1% of construction value, of the permit value.
What's the bar across the middle?
Right. So the way that we measured the feasibility threshold is the return on cost is, the bar is set at 10%. So that represents the minimum threshold for a project to be considered feasible under this metric. That's 10% return on cost, and what the bars show is that for status quo, the single family for sale prototype meets that minimum threshold. If you reduce the SDCs by 50%, it's hard to see in this bar, but it does come down a little bit. And then, it does go up a little bit. It moves a little bit higher. And then option 20B, the CET of 1%, it actually comes down. It reduces the return on cost. So the imposition of the reduction of SDCs does increase return on cost. The imposition of a CET reduces that return on cost, but it still meets the minimum threshold to be considered feasible.
So Sarah, if I'm understanding this correctly, the first bar is status quo, the second one is it becomes slightly more profitable and more feasible to build this type of home with reduced SDCs, and slightly less profitable, less feasible, but still above the threshold with the CET of 1%.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm not a math person, so I'm just double checking that.
No, I'm glad, and I hope that if there are other questions like that, please ask. So this is for the single family detached home, and I'm not going to show you the townhome results. They follow a similar pattern, although their return on cost is lower across a little bit lower across the board, but for all 3 scenarios, it also meets the minimum threshold for feasibility under this metric. So I'm going to move on to multifamily. So this is a for rent prototype, and so it's the math is a little bit different. It's measured on yield on cost, but the scenarios are the same. So the left bar is status quo, that's the existing SDCs. The middle bar is reducing SDCs, and the far bar is adding the CET into the costs. The metric here is yield on cost of 6.5%. That's the orange line across there, and the results do show that a multifamily for rent prototype, the prototype that we tested, did meet the minimum threshold for feasibility in all 3 of the scenarios. And then, so are there any questions about multifamily? Okay, so we also tested the cottage cluster as a rental. So I'm going to show you those results here. Cottage cluster, I have to admit, I've never tested a cottage cluster before. We decided this is a rental product, so we did yield on cost as the metric. it is also set, that threshold is also set at a 6.5% yield on cost. And the scenarios are not quite, they do not quite meet the minimum threshold for feasibility, except if you reduce the SDCs, and then it's actually exactly 6.5. That is very marginal. You know, you can't say that's really meeting the threshold. It's certainly not above the threshold. It's just barely meeting the threshold of feasibility there. The other two scenarios do not meet that minimum threshold. So this.
I just have a question. So are you figuring in vacancy rates and these things too, like in the first year or two? So, okay.
Yes, in net operating income, there are assumptions for vacancy.
We're building one of these right now, and we're showing probably the first year or two more at about a 5%.
Okay.
So it's with the cost that it's actually taking to build one of these.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a little. The 6.5 is great because that's what the banks want to see for your lending. But but I don't think they're quite that good.
Do you think it's down even a little bit lower?
I do. I really do.
Okay. Well.
It's close.
So this is the last slide, and I guess to reiterate, the basic results are that the reduction of SDCs does not move the needle a whole bunch. So that would be a takeaway for you to see, but particularly for the single family prototypes that we tested, it moves it a little bit more for these other multifamily prototypes. And then other than this cottage cluster prototype, the other big takeaway is that we did find that the imposition of CET is not likely to negatively impact development feasibility of any of the prototypes other than the cottage cluster. And I should add, I'm not showing you the ADU because it's not really, it's not exactly the same product type as these, so I'm not sure how helpful testing it in this way would be. It's a different, people are building them for different reasons. So it didn't seem appropriate to show it on a yield on cost basis. So that is it for these, and I'd be happy to take any additional questions on these results.
This will be online, available online? Yeah.
These slides will be, yes.
Perfect. And I wanted to echo Sarah's comment. They have worked incredibly fast to do an incredible volume of work and to do it precisely and accurately. So when she says these data are still preliminary, we said they have a little bit more time before they submit their final results to council, but we asked if they could share what they have at this point with you all to the degree that it helps your decision making. So thank you for that. Let's give Sarah a round of applause. Thank you. All right, so with that, we touched on, like I said, number 20, or some of the sub-options under 20 with the CET. And part of that also is that the CET was part of what sparked this group. Council said, I don't know how to make this go away, Tim. I got it, haha. When council was considering a CET, and I think we have information in your packet saying that there was a group that looked at this, their work concluded in April and brought certain recommendations. Based on that, council said they were willing to entertain the idea, and they wanted another working group, this working group, to look at this as part of a suite of other solutions, not just a one piece, but as part of a broader, more comprehensive plan. This is some additional information from that group. This is not to shove the CET down your throat. It's just to give you information to decide if that's one of the bitter pills you might be able to swallow in the absence of a money tree. Thanks. So I'm going to break with our order a little bit. We'll vote on number 20, but again, if we can't pick some options, sub-options with 20, it doesn't do us as much good. So I'm going to filter out some of those others. 20C, 20E, 20B, I think the other 20s might have fallen below the threshold. I might resurrect just to make sure. The ones that fell above, that were above 50% were 20C, 20E, which is kind of a variation on 20B. It's charging CET on a sliding scale. I called it 20B asterisk, and then I changed it to 20E. Charge CET on a sliding scale by the size of the development, especially residential. So it's a variation on 20B, but I'm making it a new option here as 20E. 20D, affordable housing impact fee, fell below the 50%. It was not a popular idea, and I'm not entirely sure it's legal. And then 20A was a very unpopular option, shift money away from the city's general fund towards capital A, affordable housing. That one was very unpopular as well. Okay, so I'm going to keep those down there, but they were not popular options before. Go ahead.
It said the city should set up another task force to actually
look
at these details more and try to figure out what to do.
Thank you. And I put that aside with a note because they could be applied to any of them. Any of these could have, okay, we think this is a good idea. I think it needs more study. Okay, so 20F is kind of a default for any of them, that whether council wants to act on it or not, that this could be convened, but thank you. I stuck it in the back saying, yeah, that's true for any, but you're right, it's another option saying if this group doesn't feel confident in recommending. That said, council has been wrestling with some of these ideas over different amounts of time, and another working group in certain ways just kind of kicks the can down the road more. So if there's a degree that we can recommend one of these over another, in spite of the drawbacks that might come with it, that at least sends a message to council of a direction to pursue. Again, this is one that we all like the idea of more money, right? But how do we get it, right? Let's feel good about coming up with more money first. Let's go ahead and vote on number 20. And then we'll get into the details. If you agree that the city should identify no new revenue sources for affordable capital A housing units, saying you have to subsidize these things, we need to make more investments in them, and we should identify revenue streams for that. Option 20, then we'll get into the specifics. Go ahead and let's do cards for that. 1, 2, 3. Not quite unanimous. Okay, I see 2 yellow. Good. 2 yellow, the rest green. So 26 and 2. I'm going to save us on this one. We need more money to solve the problem, right? Reservations?
I went yellow because earlier you mentioned that if I went green, I need to support something behind it, and I'm not willing to do that.
Okay, good. So you don't feel like you can go running around in the community supporting this general idea. Okay, good. Appreciate that. Any other reasons to? Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. It's hard to get behind something if it just doesn't feel right. So let's tackle these one by one. And again, we need, if some of these other ideas are going to have legs, you've got to send a message to council of which one of these things you think they should support. They say there's nothing so powerful as an idea whose time has come. I don't know who said that. I don't know if the time has come for any of these, but if it is, what a powerful message to be able to send, right? A lot has happened over the past years in Eugene specifically towards these things, and they haven't necessarily flown, right? So there's a question of how bad does it need to get before they will, or you know, what does it take until that ideas time has come, and of these, which is the best one? So 20C, pursuing a bond to fund the construction of affordable housing developments. That was one, the most popular of the 20 of the sub options in 20. 20C, it had about 69% support in the straw poll. I think there was some new information added in your packet as far as the amount of revenue this could generate. With a bond, you can decide how big or how small. Those of you connected with schools know that. So you could ask for less money if that would make it more palatable to the community. Of course, less money then is available to do the work, or you could ask for more money to meet the needs that you've identified. This just became legal? You couldn't do this before, right? Okay. You could do it before? Oh. What was 102? Got it. Got it. We're not going to go down that path. You can do this for sure now. All right, so 20C. Should City Council consider putting forth a bond to help pay for some of these affordable housing things? Is that a path to fund these solutions that you want? To grab your cards? One? Oh, question. Oh, sorry, microphone.
I apologize to the group. It's going to seem like I'm
going backwards.
taking us back for a moment, but so we would support giving council direction to pursue a bond before we would pursue any prioritization from the general fund.
So the way these fell previously is, yes, they would say go to the voters and ask for more money, don't redivert more money. That's how the votes landed before. We can reconsider, and we can revote on 20A and see if there's a portion. I'll bring those back, and we can see if there's any wings in that. But yes, yeah, that was a more popular option before. All right, let's vote. Okay, sorry, I got to be clear on what we're voting on. 20C. This is the option of a bond. This is where you all are really off the hook as decision makers, because council would have to decide to do it and the voters would have to approve it. But you are saying we think this is an important thing and voters should consider it and putting it forward. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So I see 1. Keep them up. 2, 3, 4 yellow, 1 red. 1. Keep. Sorry. Just getting our double checking. 4 yellow, 1 red. That's 5, so 23. All right, good. So quite a bit of support behind that. That went much higher than the support that it had before. Folks that feel lukewarm or opposed, you want to go ahead and voice?
I'm looking at the caps we have on how much we can issue for bonds and for levies, and they are capped. You can't just issue infinite bond measures.
Okay.
And so we're getting close to definitely the levy cap and the bond cap. And so if we're going to issue bonds for this, we should be not renewing some of the other bonds we have out there.
Okay.
And so
there's trade-offs of what other money would.
I think that I feel like part of the reason why the general fund didn't get more votes is because there was a recognition of those trade-offs.
Okay.
And there's trade-offs here too.
There's a reckoning with that.
Which
awesome. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I wouldn't say that's maybe the way to go if we're acknowledging those trade-offs and saying that this will be the last bond measure we ever do.
Yeah, right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I appreciate that. Remember, we're going to see more and more reds in this, and part of the voice of that red is acknowledging the trade-offs, even when people feel like overall that's a preferable option. All right. So that is one option. Oh, yeah, another one.
If this were on the, I just want to clarify, if this were on the ballot, I would vote yes for it.
Okay.
But when we're looking at creating a plan to move forward and recommendations, there's no guarantee that it's going to pass.
Okay.
And so then if it's the only option we put forward and it doesn't pass, then we're left with nothing.
Okay, thank you.
That is not a guarantee. So that's why I was a maybe, because I would like to see something.
You want to see certainty.
Certain.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's. Oh, another reason for yellow.
I think we need to be, and it maybe that we would come out, and we being AARP would come out in support of this, but we need to be cognizant of the impact to homeowners.
Okay, good. That it's not just pass a bond, but that impacts everybody and it distributes the burden to everybody, but it also could be really impactful for folks. Good, thank you. All right, let's consider 20E then. This was the next popular of the 20s. This is charge a CET on a sliding scale by the size of the development. So this scored higher than 20B that was kind of across the board, but it's related. So charge a CET on a sliding scale by the size of the development, especially for residential. Yeah.
Do we mean size of development as in square footage of the units, or size of development as in the number of overall units being developed at one time?
I do not know. It was not my idea. Who offered it? This came out of last time. Go ahead. So the question is, when we say by size, is that about how square footage or how many units it is or whatever else?
I think it,
Oh,
It was our table, it was construction value.
by the construction value. So a $1 million home would pay a higher CET than a $250,000 home.
That's the way it already works,
It already works that way. So if you,
based on the value of the building permit.
so let's double check, because I want to honor that this new idea came up, and if there is a new flavor in it that is different than 20B. So if it's seen as, the CET is charged, or as proposed in the April document that went to council, is based on the value of the construction, or the. Got it. So it's 1% as a baseline, but then that could be adjusted. So a very high dollar home might pay more than 1%, and a very low dollar home could be subjected to a lower, like a 0.5% or 0.25%. Is that what you're saying? That's the idea. Okay. So does that make sense to people of how it's not just 1% and 1% of a million or 1% of 100,000. But it's that if it's $1 million thing, you maybe pay 1.5%, and if it's a $100,000 thing, you maybe pay 0.1% or some adjustment along the way. Chris? It's capped at 1% by law, so it'd be one. Thank you. I don't know what I'm talking about up here. This is why we have you all. So it would be top of 1% and then sliding down from there for lower values. Chris?
For school districts that have a CET, is this on top of that? Is this an additional CET on top? Okay.
Yeah.
Just clarifying.
So,
here. I was going to give it to you.
all right. So any other questions on how this is different than 20B that might impact how you vote? Okay. So I'm thinking back to Sarah's presentation and seeing how this affects the profitability of different things. I'm thinking about ultimately more money has to come in, but how do we best shoulder that burden? Go ahead, John. Microphone. You are so good to be patient.
I'm not patient. Just to note that some cities who have already adopted a CET address this by exempting properties or building permits below a certain value, such as $100,000.
Okay. So similar to the sliding scale, but it would be 0 if it's under a certain amount with that. Okay. Remember, in these, we're voting to say, does this align with my values? Can I generally support it? Even if a lot more details are going to have to get worked out later through a process there. All right. So voting now on 20E, charging a CET, but doing it on a sliding scale based on the value of the property. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. All right, so let's hold them up because we need a little more time here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 yellow. You can't have 2. You got to decide, Karen. 1, 2, 3. No double voting. All right, I see 4 yellow. Anne's running around so we can get the minority report if we need to follow up with you. So I see 4 yellow and 3 red. Is that accurate? 4 yellow, 3 red. That's 7, 21 greens. All right. Reasons we support it. Quick. Jason's going to run your microphone.
I
think it's just important that as we're looking at the affordability, that it's scalable. If we are going to do a CET, that it scales so that the homes that we're trying to build can be more affordable.
Okay, good. So you don't add construction cost on the lower cost houses that you're trying to build. Good. Other reasons for? Yeah.
This is one of those
Coming.
This is one of those things that we need more information about, pros and cons.
Okay. Want more information? Reasons that we don't support it? I'm just going to turn to our community here. Some red votes. One of the Dans. There's like 20 Dans on this team. If I don't know one of your names, I just say Dan and hope for the best.
Yeah, I just can't vote for a CET either way. I mean, I was maybe on the affordable because I could get behind of spreading everyone, but taxing one industry to fix it doesn't seem right to me.
Okay, good. So the bond kind of spreads it out to everybody. A CET seems to be focusing on one industry. All right, good. Let's move on. 20F, do we want to vote? We're done with, oh yeah, here, I'll put it here. Do we want to vote on this one, create a working group to study it in depth and include some sensible recommendations? Do we need to vote on this, or do we think that it's going to happen for anything when council says they need to do it? Okay, let's set it aside, if that's okay, because I think that is going to happen naturally. 20D. 20D, charge an affordable housing impact fee. This was not popular at all. It fell below the threshold. I just want to double check before I kill it. I'm not sure this is legal, but I don't actually know. Let's go ahead and vote 20D. We resurrected it just to make sure. Charge an affordable housing mitigation fee. This was below 20%, or it was 23% of you supported it previously, based on your conversation from before. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we're gonna count 1 green. 20D. Don't worry about the no's on this one. They're 20D. So I see one green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yellow. 2 green. 2 green, 8 yellow, and the rest red. For these ones that are really not popular, I'm not going to get your information. Council's not going to read it. They're going to say, that was not popular. Let's move on. Number 20A, I'm going to resurrect again. Shifting money from the general fund. Money is allocated to different things. We like those services. Could we shift some of it to pay for some of these affordable housing efforts? This was very unpopular before. It scored 14% in favor. Just want to double check. Yeah, question?
Could shifting mean multiple things like incentivizing?
Incentives, I think, are their own options. So I'm trying to think if there's a different...
So when we provide breaks on property taxes for or something like that,
right?
Would that be considered a shifting of funds, or that money would normally go into the general fund somehow, or no?
I think it's a separate option. I think those are separate things, and we do have some of those incentives listed. And you're right that the trade-off of that is less money for the general fund. So, and we'll talk about SDCs in a second. If you take away too many SDCs of things, that is essentially kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul in certain ways, right? All right, yeah.
I just want to add that my understanding is that relative to other cities and jurisdictions who are grappling with the type of housing crisis that we are grappling with, there's more direct buy-in from that community through how it spends the money that it raises through its typical means to this issue.
So rather than taxing an industry or asking a bond, they just say this is a priority and they adjust the...
I mean, I even wonder if it said find money in the city's general fund rather than shift money. It changes your impression of, are you losing something or are you looking for ways to make it possible? And that's just a perspective I have on it.
Yeah. I can tell you, being in contract negotiations with the different unions, finding money is tricky. And everybody's looking. but it's a good point. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on this again, knowing that council will have to make some decisions and figure out what these things actually mean. So grab your cards. This is shifting money, finding money in the general fund, re-examining the budget, and dedicating more money towards capital A affordable housing. 1, 2, 3. All right, keep them up high because our counters are going to need lots of time here. I see 7 red. Is that 7 red and 6 yellow? Okay, 7 red, 6 yellow, the rest green. All right, that grew in popularity since last time in evaluating those trade-offs, so nice work. Let's vote now on 20B. So 20B, across the board, no sliding scale, charge a CET to raise resources. This is the most aligned with that one pager that you got explaining the likely revenue that could be generated from this, how the spending would go and be broken out for it.
I just have a general question.
Yep.
So let's say the University of Oregon is building a $500 million project. Are they charged CET on this?
Would that be commercial?
Is that? So no public project then gets charged to CET.
Okay, so it would be residential and commercial, but no public projects would fall under that, the definition. So schools, anything with the university.
Hospitals.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
That's in the state statute.
And that's, okay, regulated by the state statute. Good. Excellent. All right, so another comment just to clarify.
Can we throw out arguments or sort of variations?
You want to offer a new, why not? I mean, we've got plenty of time, you know, it's not like, John, would you like to make, is it a quick one that, this is like, it would be a 20F, G, I don't know what number?
Well, actually, it's in support of 20B, but I've tried to bribe Ed by pointing out that the CET, by state statute, has part of it dedicated to housing or affordable housing, either one. So housing includes what Ed builds, but another half of it can be used for anything the city wants. So, as Newport did, the city of Eugene could dedicate half of that CET revenue to infrastructure, which would address the home builders' great concern about SDCs.
Okay, so clarify for me, is this a new flavor? Is there something different, or is it just in clarifying that how some of that money could be spent, not just for affordable housing, but that some of it could be redirected towards other infrastructure? Or
One of the beauties of the state statute authorizing the CET is the flexibility it gives local government to design the CET. Just as they could exempt houses under $100,000, they could dedicate a great part of the money to infrastructure.
Okay. So if more of that money were dedicated towards infrastructure, then would that impact, could SDCs be adjusted or something else that would make that pencil out differently?
That's what Newport did.
Okay, so Newport has done it that way. So
Newport also decreased cost more than what the effect of the CET was.
okay, so there was ways that they kind of balanced those things out. So the let's vote on 20B as it is now, and then I'm gonna real quickly write up 20F or whatever it's gonna be.
It could just be part of the study.
Okay, sounds good. Let's vote with 20B, then knowing that the funds could be adjusted and spent on things aside from just affordable housing. Stephanie has a question.
I just want to make a clarification.
Microphone.
So just again to clarify the sliding scale issue. So the CET is applied to the percentage of the permit value. So a larger project would pay a larger fee because 1% of the value would be larger. So I just want to make sure people understand that.
Yep. Okay. And this is again across the board. This is not the sliding scale one. It's 1% that then 1% of $1 million is more than 1% of 100,000. All right. Another question.
Sorry, so
This one is
This
20B.
Exactly what the Housing Policy Board already recommended, or just a CET in general?
Let's say a CET in general.
So I
have another clarification here, though. Isn't the whole purpose of the CET to leverage for federal funds, for HUD money and other?
It could be.
Well, obviously, if you.
I mean, that's a help to
I
have
think-
those matching funds, right?
I think, though, that's the goal of the CET for our groups that actually build subsidized housing, so.
So the question is, and so in diluting it and putting more money towards other things, would you lose that opportunity of, you wouldn't have as much to offer for matching funds? Okay. This is a hard one. Did you want to?
So yes and no. In a project that St. Vincent de Paul builds or Jacob with the Housing Authority bills, it's often federal money and private money. So we're going to leverage every dime we can get, but we have to have something to do the leveraging. So yes, we would be able to get more tax credits possibly if we had the CET revenue or a bond revenue. But we would also want to be borrowing money from a bank like NOAA.
Okay.
So it's not one or the other.
Okay. Thank you, John.
And depending on how the 50% that has some discretion is used, it can also benefit affordable housing. I mean, we have to pay for infrastructure development also, so.
Correct.
Okay. I saw a hand in the back, and then Ty.
It's just critical that this community has something to leverage to bring in more federal funds. We're leaving money on the table.
Okay.
Because we just don't have enough, we're not putting enough in.
Okay, so a vote of support to have more money that can be used in that way. Ty, I'm going to give you the last word, and we're going to go ahead and call for a vote on this.
So this, I think, really speaks to the complexity of the issue and why it's tricky to try to look at each issue in a vacuum. The CET by itself, not coupled with any discussion of spending the money on anything, makes it more expensive to develop housing, of course, and that's a very clear objection. But depending on how we spend it, if we spend it in an effective way that can make housing cheaper to build in other sides, and if we can leverage it to bring in other money, you get a lot of ifs and it gets complex. So depending on how the money is spent, it depends on which of the other options we're looking at. But I think the CET by itself is a potential funding source, and that's what we have to look at.
So let me ask with this. I wonder, for those of you that are leaning no on 20B, or that voted no on 20E, I believe it was, is there another option that if we were to combine them, that you could say, if it was both, it's like a bitter pill with a chaser, that you might be able to lean in a more positive direction if it were combined with another option from anywhere up here? Is there anything that would make this more palatable, that if you said make it a package, I could support that? If it's not up there, you can tell me what number it is. I'll dig through the piles and find it, but go ahead.
So I'm not saying that I oppose the CET, but I think that it is predicated on doing this other stuff. Like, I feel like we've now we're in CET land for the past 20 minutes, and we've got all these other things on the board, and at the end of the day, we need more than just the CET. Okay. So I feel like we're getting into this question of, you can't pick if we do 87F, and I hope that one's not one that exists.
Me too.
Then we can support this. It's a
whole
package
deal.
Deal.
Yep, for sure. So thankfully you all improved with great enthusiasm the whole picture housing plan, right? That all of these things can come together in. But again, thinking about what are the pieces in it. Go ahead.
Well, I would add that's exactly why we're here. We're coming up with a lot of other ideas that have a lot of support here, that combined with a CET can satisfy a lot of very different interests.
Good. And in thinking how we're balancing things, again, there's tensions and trade-offs in all of it. Can we get enough good for enough people that we can support it? Go ahead, Dan.
I've got to speak to this because the whole point of this committee right here was based on a CET that was brought before the city council.
That's part of what's
so the main heart of this is related to the CET. But for those of you that don't develop, and I've been doing this for 42 years in this community, and I love this community, But the reality of it is our SDCs and our permit fees, since the Great Recession, have gone up, and they will with the new transportation tax, almost 3 times in the last 10 years. And so in my 42 years, I've never seen the city ever reduce costs on anything. So I know John over here presents a really strong argument, but at the same time, I think you have to look at it through a different lens, that you can't keep going to the same well. Development is the heart and lifeblood of every single community. If you don't have development, you have a dead community. And so you have to keep thinking that you can't keep going back to the same well all the time to pay for all of these things. And so, that's where I would be much more in favor of spreading the, through a bond measure. That makes more sense.
Okay,
so.
good. Is there something here, Dan, and I don't mean to put Dan on the spot, but if there is a way to balance, is there something, I just pulled apart the 12 options that are about adjusting SDCs. 12 in itself was relatively popular, but then some of the specifics were slightly less so. I wonder if there's a trade-off, that if the group wanted to put forward one of these as a way to reduce fees, again, knowing that it's all, in the end, similar pots of money, right? But are there any combinations there? John, go ahead. Isn't this fun, being in the groan zone right as we're voting and trying to finish? We're just wrestling.
No, I think
with
she's
it.
right that we need to move on. And I just want to say that perhaps it could be a new idea at the end, could be that we recommend, I don't know that we'd ever get home builder support, we recommend a CET if these other things are included in the city council's agreement.
Okay. And what would those pieces be? What would those?
A whole bunch of the stuff we've already approved.
Okay.
In other words, affordable housing developers suffer the same things that home builders do.
Okay.
They have the same problems with permits, with the same problems with the city approval process, same problems with appeals, and it's not different.
Okay.
We're on the same side.
Everybody is struggling with those same challenges. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and vote on this, and then you can put your spirit into some of these other issues. And let's go ahead and get a final vote on this. This is 20B, not the sliding scale, just across the board, CET. Number 20B, grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I see 1, 3, 4, 5. 5 yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4 red. Awesome. I'm imagining Anne's writing these down so we can follow up with you if we need content for the minority report. I imagine the rationale pro and con for this is the same as it was for the sliding scale. Is that fair? All right. Whew. Do we need to take a really fast stretch break? Or can we push through? Let's keep going. All right. So our next one on our list. Whew, I feel like we need to celebrate something. We made it through that whole conversation. Yikes. With non-dairy. All right, have we done 3B? I've lost track since I sorted 12 over there. I think we did 3B. Did we do 3B? All right, 21? Did we do 21? 21 is new. All right, so 21, increase the density bonus for qualified affordable housing. This is strategy 3. This was popular. 83% of you supported it previously. These are some of those incentives, Chris, that you asked about in reducing fees for certain things if they're meeting certain demands. Increasing the density bonus. This is number 20. At this point, I'm going to switch to just written comments rather than having us talk about them. I'm just going to have you write things down. 21. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. I see 3. I see 3 yellow and 3 red. Folks, especially that are voting red, please write down your rationale. Good, go ahead and put your cards down. 3 yellow, 3 red on 21. Let's look now at number 15, improve the clear and objective standards. This is already happening through a different task force, but it could be done further with a mindset to not just are they clear and objective, but thinking about how these standards might be barriers to the construction of homes. Number 15. It's relatively popular before. Think anything new? No. Make it better. Okay. All right, 15, grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, lots of green on that one. Dan's changing his mind on me. I see 3 yellow, the rest green. Folks that have yellow, if you want to register why you have yellow, but it looks like that one is near unanimous with folks not voting in opposition. Number 3. Oh, why do we have 4? Let's do number 3 and then number 4. Revise the land use code to allow for development of more diverse or missing middle housing types. We've gotten some feedback that missing middle is a misnomer. What we're talking about there is duplexes, triplexes, cottage clusters, more diverse housing types. You can take out that word missing middle if you don't like it. Revise the land use code to allow for the development of more diverse, talking about missing middle, housing types.
Yeah, there is 3A.
We're voting on 3, not 3A. Cards? Yep. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I see 3, 4 red. 5 red? 5 red, thank you. 5 red, I don't see any yellow, so the rest then are green. Again, write down your comments, especially if you're voting red. I can make up why these are good ideas, but the arguments against, I want to make sure I get them real right. Number 4. Revise the land use code to ease development standards for adaptive reuse. Again, this is converting an existing non-residential building like a church into something residential. So revising that code to make it easier. 1, 2, 3. I see 1 red, 3. No, Karen, you can't vote with 2. 3, 4 yellow. 4 yellow, 1 red. Again, make sure you're jotting down your ideas of why these are good ideas. Now number 35. This was a new one that you just discussed today. Encourage participation in the neighborhood association so they're more representative of the people living in the neighborhoods. It's a mystery to me how you voted before, but it falls in line with some of these other ones. Encouraging more participation in the neighborhood associations.
So are we voting on 35 or 35A?
35A, I'm sorry. 35A. 35A. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see 1 red, 1, 2, 2 yellow. Remember, if you don't vote, we're counting you with whatever the lump of the majority is, okay? So 1 red, 2 yellow, especially if you vote red or yellow, make sure you note your reservations for that. All right, number 25. Trying to find 25 on my list. Help low and moderate income. Oh, this one is already happening. Oh, but it could be expanded. Already happening, could be expanded, so we're going to go ahead and vote on it. Because they're already happening? Is that okay with folks? If things are already happening, we're going to set them aside? Okay. All right. 4A, improve the adjustment review process for adaptive reuse. This is a flavor of 4, which you generally supported just previously. 4A, improve the adjustment review process. 1, 2, 3. I see 3 yellow, the rest green. Okay, They're pretty high agreement one. Those of you who voted yellow, make sure you note those reasons for that. 5A, this is in the salmon color, create a key corridor overlay within design standards, which allows for multi-development on all key corridors. You all voted in favor of 5. That was your most popular one. Do we want to vote on this as is this a separate sub-option if we agreed on number 5? Is it the same thing? It's more specific? Would council appreciate the difference? Yeah, council would appreciate the difference. All right, so if it's the same thing to you, vote the same way you did on number 5. If you see some distinctions and you don't like this, vote differently. 5A, create a key corridor overlay for those key corridors. 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 2 yellow, the rest green. Brilliant, thank you. We have a whole bunch of agreement on these. All right, number 12, ha 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 ha, just as we were making so much progress. Number 12 is SDCs. 12 is adjust them. But there's a lot of ways to do that. So adjust SDCs, number 12 is adjust SDCs to reduce the development costs for market rate housings that are smaller and lower cost. So adjusting SDCs for things that are smaller and cheaper. Not adjusting SDCs for $1 million homes. This is just for adjusting SDCs for smaller costs, or for smaller and lower cost homes. John, question on this one?
I'm not an expert on SDCs, but I thought I understood that SDCs were based on impact of the home on our service, whether that's sewer, water, roads, parks. So I don't know that there's a correlation between price and usage.
Okay, so a smaller house or a bigger house, if it's got people living in it, flushing the toilet, that impact is likely the same. Okay. Another comment on this one.
I think it depends on which SDC you're talking about. So, for example, the transportation piece of it is the same whether you have a house that could fit, say, 6 people with cars, or a very tiny house that's really only going to fit 1 person with a car. So even though the actual impact is different, the way it's measured isn't particularly exact.
That could make sense on size, but what about price?
Price, yeah.
My concern on this one is SDCs are based on a capital improvement list of projects that need to be completed. And when you're exempting some people from paying that, guess where the rest of it goes?
Okay.
So just another example of sticking it on to housing at the higher prices.
Okay. So we've heard some reasons why this is, what some of those tensions and trade-offs might be in this, right? And that money for those capital improvements has to come from somewhere. So we need to be mindful of those trade-offs. Let's go ahead and vote on it. And then I'd like to just tackle those sub-options with it since they're related while our brains are thinking about it. So let's vote on 12 right now, just in general, adjusting it. How do you feel about number 12? Cards, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I see 2 red. 2 red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 8 yellow, 2 red, the rest green. Make sure you're noting your reasons why. Let's go ahead and tackle 12B. Was the most popular of the sub options if you didn't do it across the board. 12B was the most popular of the sub options. Again, this is where the devil might be in the details. This is reduce SDCs only for multifamily developments in downtown and along key corridors. So focusing it in those areas, perhaps encouraging more development in those areas with those reduced fees, but again, still having to address the infrastructure needs with it. All right, let's go ahead and vote on this one. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up nice and high for us. I don't see any red on this. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 or 8? 8? 9. 9 yellow, the rest green. All right. The next SDC, next most popular was 12F. This was a new option that you all offered before. Scale the SDCs to the size and impact of what's built. So right now, some of them are flat rate, and this would be scaling them. I don't know how this works. Ed, go ahead and explain it real fast.
In my opinion, that's already done. You know, if you have 5 sinks, you pay more in the plumbing SDC. If you have 1 sink and 1 toilet, it's less. It's scaled to the use of capacity for these units. So this is already being done in state law.
Is that across the board, or are there some SDCs? I know there's like water and sewer and all these other things. Are there some that are not currently scaled that could be, that we could clarify?
Well, I think for an example, parks is a good one. You know, you pay parks at a certain rate, no matter no matter what it is. And so the question again is impact. If you've got 5 people living in a house versus 1 person, is that person really responsible for, you know, the same amount of money for that? So parks is just one.
So parks is
I
one
think
example.
wastewater, not wastewater management. There's another one.
Stormwater?
Stormwater. I think stormwater might be too. Yeah. And transportation. That's right.
Based on number of trips and number of trips
Right.
for all residential,
So some of these, again, this is where the details
Roughly
would have to get worked out later, but some of those things could be scaled that aren't currently based on the size. So let's go ahead and vote on this 12F. This was a new option from last time. If you think this makes sense, 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 1, 2, 3. 11? Yeah, all right, 11 yellow, no red. Thank you, y'all, you're doing great work. 12A, delay the collection of SDCs until a property is ready to receive its certificate of occupancy. So this one is interesting in that the money is still gonna come in the same way. There's just gonna be a delay that the city wouldn't actually collect it until the project is done. Thinking that eases things for developers who have to come up with the money up front. Once it's got its CO, it's a lot closer. Its certificate of occupancy, it's a lot closer. All right, so delaying the collection of these. 12A, 1, 2, 3. What is that card? A white card? Sorry, y'all are giving me all the curveballs. All right, I see 1 red, and I see 1, 2. Is that 2 yellow? 1 red, 2 yellow, the rest green. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, whew, y'all are doing good work. Let's do 3A. 3A, we know we're not gonna make it through the whole list, but we are gonna make it as far as we can before we need to stop, take a breather, and decide, and talk about what our next steps are. So we're gonna try and tackle a couple more of these in the time we have. So 3A, enable by right housing options, including duplexes, triplexes, cottage clusters, and smaller homes on smaller lot sizes in all single-family zones. So this is a code change, strategy 1, salmon-colored packet, making it easier to build those different housing types in those single-family zones. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. Wow. 1, 2, 3 red. 1. Is it just 1 yellow? All right, 1 yellow, the rest green. I think that one jumped up in the popularity. Y'all had more time to think about that one. All right, let's go on to 27. Expand Eugene's land banking program for capital A, affordable housing. Identify more flexible funding sources. So this is where that tough stuff you wrestled with in number 20 of, it's a blue heart, do it, do it. But it could be expanded. The blue hearts could be expanded. Pink hearts are the ones that are just done. You can't do it without money, but let's see if this is a priority that you would support. Let's go ahead and vote on it. 27. 27. If the money is there, invested in the land bank. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, that one jumped up too. I see 2 yellows. Note your reasons for that. Otherwise, lots of green on that. Thank you. All right, couple more. Number 40, it looks like is next. Create promotional materials for assistance programs. Make information on process more readily available. So this is supporting your people navigating these different regulatory things. creating promotional materials about assistance program. Oh, this is like for the different incentive programs and the different ways you can qualify as a builder for some of these benefits. So making sure people are aware of those opportunities with promotional materials, etc. Number 40. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yellow. Okay, 8 yellow, the rest are green. Number 52, mixed use. This was a new idea from last time. Number 52, allowing for mixed use on major streets. This is when you have a mix of commercial and residential. This is not just key corridors. These are major streets. I think your salmon-colored packet elaborates on this, of what those types of streets are. This is like Hilliard. Is that what the... It's in the middle before 12. It's not at the end. Sorry about that. Oh, on the paper ballot for voting. Yeah, because it's at the end of the orange section of your ballot because it's strategy 1. Okay, allowing for mixed use on major streets. Again, this is not just key corridors, but major streets. Number 52. 1, 2, 3. That one's popular. All right, I see 1, 2, 3. 3 yellow, the rest green. Awesome, thank you. All right, 24. This is a green option, strategy 3. Help low and moderate income households purchase a home. So helping people move up the housing ladder. You have some data of what was invested in this before, what it takes to make a difference. Again, dependent on money coming in to pay for it. But is this something that aligns with your values and is a way to help the situation? Number 24. In the green information. 1, 2, 3. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 yellow. 4 yellow. Good. Rest are green. All right, next one is number 53. Tiny homes. So, I tried to get a little more articulate with this one. Revisit or revise the land use code to allow for more tiny homes, tiny communities. This was a new option that came up last time. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. Wow. 2 yellow. I just see 2 yellow, the rest green. All right, that one jumped up quite a bit in popularity as well. Let's tackle one more. 11. I think 11 was the next one on my most popular list. I don't know how they got up there in that way. All right, number 11. Align the zoning map with the comprehensive plan map. Currently Metro plan diagram. Make a plan to make a plan to make a plan. Yikes. It's about aligning the zoning map with the comprehensive plan. Again, this one may have overlap or may be different from some of the other things you voted on. If it aligns with your values, you think it could be a good idea to get those things all in alignment. I'm going to vote yes on this one. Grab your cards. 1, 2, 3. All right, I see 1, 2, 3. 3 yellow, the rest green. All right, good. Those of you who voted yellow, make sure we understand your caution for that. We're going to pause right there. We made it through all of them that had greater than or equal to 70% approval or better. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So the ones that are below that, all of the ones that are still up here, are ones that at least in your straw poll, half, 50 to 69%, of you agreed with them. Okay, so they're ones that we'll still send to council and say, hey, at least half of them thought these were good ideas. They just maybe in the initial poll didn't end up quite as strong. Okay, so they're not coming off the table. All of them will get submitted to them, but they'll be able to see your general preferences. If the staff were to weigh in, how many years would it take to implement what they've just voted on tonight? And with how much money? Yeah, good. So I know that there's a sense of loss of the things that we didn't get to address and put in a final vote on tonight. You can certainly mark your preferences on your ballot for any of these that you feel strongly about, that you want to include information about, and I invite you to write some of those comments. Particularly if there were ones that maybe on first look just didn't rise to the top, but that you really think that council should consider. This is an extensive menu of options for them to work with. So we have a couple more steps tonight. With us if you've got a lot to say on those documents. I'm going to invite you in just a second here to grab a Post-it note or two from the middle of your table. And I'm going to invite you to have a stand-up meeting with somebody you've met throughout this process. Could be somebody new, somebody you particularly liked. And I want you to just have a stand-up meeting with them to say, what are you going to tell people about this whole thing? Somebody says, you were on that committee. What did you think of that? What was that all about? What would you tell them? So I want you to have a quick conversation of, what's your message out? What are you going to tell people about this? And as you're talking, if you can jot down some of those ideas on Post-it notes, that'll help us to record them and get a sense of the flavor of that, okay? You can see what some of our next steps are. I want to make sure they're real clear for folks before we do any other sort of closing. I want to remind everybody of our initial purpose. Our initial purpose was to come together and think deeply about this challenge of housing affordability in Eugene. Check. You could think deeply about this for decades. Then based on that deep thinking, we wanted to generate a list of ideas, actions the city can take to improve housing affordability. I'm super thrilled to say you have a tremendous list that has a high level of agreement. It doesn't mean it's not without obstacles, and it doesn't mean there's not more things you can do, but we definitely do have that list, and it might just be a starting point for some things, but I think you can feel really proud of that list. If you look back, we did training, we did some relationship building, we started digging in to solve this problem, we told the story of the interests, came up with the options, you guys started putting them together and deliberating over them, and then we reached the agreements we could today. Our next steps, if you look on your agenda, are to collect community feedback. We're going to publish, this is the top minutes. These are the ones where people had the most agreement. Those are due if you want to rally your people to weigh in. Those are due by 8 a.m. on the 3rd. It is not a lot of time. We'll be working really hard to get those reports out so people can see them as quickly as possible, and feedback, there's an online form or they can send an email, are due on December 3rd. That 3rd is the deadline because the draft has to be sent to council on the 5th for their council work session on the 10th. At the council work session on the 10th, staff will be presenting. I will be available to answer questions about content and supporting their presentation in whatever way I can on your behalf. Remember, I don't have a stake in the outcome, but I can help be your messenger and answer process questions. And is Sarah attending that meeting as well?
On the 10th?
Yeah. No. Okay. So Sarah has a separate report that she'll send. So reminding you all, there's this work happening with clear and objective housing standards. There's your group. There's the report from Sarah, the housing economist, that you benefited some from. There's the code audit that's happening, and then this ADU lawsuit that we thought we would know more about by today. All of those things are funneling in, and at that meeting on the 10th, they will begin to discuss. I can't imagine that they're going to vote or make any motions or do anything big with it before they've had a lot of time to chew on this. But if you'd like to attend that session on the 10th and see what's said, certainly welcome you to do that.
And we'll also take the extra step to send you that council packet as soon as council receives it. We'll make sure that you get that as well, so you don't have to go hunting for it.
Thank you, Jason. Excellent. I typically like to go around with groups and let people have a one-word closing thought like we did in our first meeting. we are out of time and we aren't going to be able to do that today. But if you'd like to, as you exit today, I hope that you made some new connections with people. And as you exit today, if you just want to thank them and shake their hand for serving with you in this capacity before you go. Your purple evaluation is your last task then. Some of you have already started that. It is two-sided. Please give us that feedback. In part, it checks the validity of the process, and if we did things in a way that's appropriate to solving these problems. And it's a way that we continue to get better with doing this type of work. Oh yeah, thank you. So they're not really ballots because you voted with your cards, but your comment sheets, if you leave those in the middle of the table.